The Shmospel of Dylan, Part 3. Wednesday, May the 10th, 2006. The final 6-kilometre climb to the main town of Dharamshala began after Upahu, and we reached there after lunch, but our destination for the day was 14 kilometres further up the steep road to MacLeod Ganj, home of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. We reached MacLeod Ganj just before sunset to find a group of about 20 people waiting for us in the main square, and they clapped and cheered when we arrived. Sebastian ran to Shmeiki Baba and gave him a big hug. I was amazed when the deputy mayor of Dharamshala, who was among the crowd, stepped forward and presented Guttridge with a colourful pair of Tibetan slippers, mistaking him for Shmeiki Baba. "And you really walked all the way from Goa?" asked the deputy mayor. "I walked a long way, sir," said Guttridge. "No two-wheeler?" asked the deputy mayor. "No two-wheeler, no three-wheeler, and no four-wheeler," said Guttridge. "Well done," said the deputy mayor. "Thank you," said Guttridge. "This is a fitting end to our pilgrimage, and we shall call it a great walk, not because it was long, because it really was a great walk." Other gifts were offered to him, including discount vouchers for a massage at the Tibetan Massage Center on Changspa Road. A group of solemn, middle-aged American women appeared in the square carrying candles. We thought their procession was also to celebrate our arrival, but it turned out that they were marching for Tibet. Simon, Fabrizio and Severine were also there, as was Vikram, with a journalist and photographer from the Indian Times. He asked us to pose for a picture. "But where is the kettle?" asked Vikram, realizing it was missing. "It's gone," said Guttridge. "Gone?" asked Vikram. "I instructed Guttridge to give it away," said Shoshana. "So how did you make tea, according to our agreement?" asked Vikram. "We used Crispin's pan," said Shoshana. "But that's not what we agreed," said Vikram. "Come on, Vikram," said Shoshana. "The size of the vessel was chosen by you without our consent, and there was no need for something so big, given that most of our path was off-road. We did give your tea to people we met on our way. There just weren't so many of them. Anyway, if you want me to replace the kettle, I will." "No, it's okay," said Vikram. "Let's just take the picture." We all lined up for the photographer. "What did walking without shoes or money teach you?" the journalist asked Shmeiki Baba. "Trust life while I can," he answered. Vikram shook hands with each of us and explained to Guttridge his car would drop him at the station. Shoshana asked Guttridge, "Maybe you would like to stay on here as our guest." "But I have work," said Guttridge. "How about we give you a job?" suggested Shoshana. "I would like that," said Guttridge. So Shoshana turned to Vikram and said, "Sorry, Vikram, looks like Guttridge is staying here with us." "Very well," said Vikram with a bow and left. "You know," said Guttridge, "the final duty of a pilgrim arriving at his destination is to give something back to the poor." "Good thinking," said Shmeiki Baba, and he asked Shoshana for some money, which he used to buy bread at the bakery on the main square. We all helped him distribute it to the poor who were sitting there. When we had finished, Aida appeared and hugged Shmeiki Baba. "Who is this?" asked Shoshana. "This is Aida," answered Shmeiki Baba. "I see you two are well acquainted," said Shoshana. "Yes," said Shmeiki Baba. "We were together in Goa." "Together?" asked Shoshana. "Why didn't you tell me about her?" "Because so much happened between Goa and Delhi, I didn't think it mattered," said Shmeiki Baba. "Didn't think it mattered?" said Aida in disbelief. "Hold on a minute. You knew that Aida was coming here to meet you?" asked Shoshana. "Yes," said Shmeiki Baba reluctantly. "And you did not at least email her to explain what has happened between us?" asked Shoshana. I didn't know how to say it, said Shmeiki Baba, looking forlorn. The unwise, wise man, said Shoshana. Your cowardice has betrayed us all. Shoshana took Aida by the hand, and the two of them went to talk by themselves. Shmeiki Baba looked lost. When the women returned, they walked over to Shmeiki Baba. Aida said, When we first met, I didn't like the idea of indulging your kinky fantasies, but Shoshana has convinced me of the benefits. Tonight you will allow us both to punish you. That's if you ever want to speak to either of us again. Shmeiki Baba looked flustered and did his best to nod his head. And there will be no Deepak Chopra, hissed Shoshana. The rest of us intended to party in MacLeod, but in the end we were so tired that after taking rooms and eating dinner, we had an early night. Thursday, May the 11th, 2006. In the morning, we met up at Nick's Italian Kitchen for breakfast and sat on the balcony which overlooks the magnificent Lacca Glacier and Moon Peak. Shoshana said, I think Shmeiki Baba has something to say. Yes, as you know, I cheated both Aida and Shoshana. If it's okay, I would like to ask their forgiveness in front of you all. We all agreed. Shoshana and Aida, said Shmeiki Baba, I am sorry for betraying you both. I did not tell each of you about the other because I was frightened of being rejected. I also enjoyed the power of knowing something that neither of you did. It was childish and cowardly, and by holding back the truth, I have caused you both unnecessary suffering. I partly felt sorry for Shmeiki Baba, but again I was also a little disappointed that Shoshana had forgiven him. Afterwards, we all went to pack up our things before setting out for Bagsu Nag, our final destination, a 30-minute walk further up the hill. Bagsu Nag, or Bagsu for short, is where long-term tourists to the area generally chose to stay. As we walked up the forest road, we were approached by a small elderly sadhu with a neatly trimmed white beard. He was dressed in bright yellow robes and carried a walking stick in one hand and a stainless steel jar containing money in the other. He met us with the greeting, Hello, gracious friends. And when he asked Shmeiki Baba for some money, Shmeiki Baba said, No, sir, you need to make me a donation. Without hesitating, the little man pulled out 50 rupees from his steel jar and offered it over. Shmeiki Baba took it and blessed him. That's not very nice, said Mei Ling. What do you mean? Asked Shmeiki Baba. Taking money from that kind old man, she said. Kind old man, repeated Shmeiki Baba in an ironic tone. Yes, said Mei Ling. Maybe Shmeiki Baba has a point, said Kamal, because when I was here 2 years back, I remember seeing this guy regularly. He was always asking people for money, and on more than one occasion I saw him jump in a taxi to go home. We reached Bagsu without further incident, and found that many people we knew from Goa were waiting on the main street of Upper Bagsu to welcome us. They cheered us on as we huffed and puffed up the steep hill until we flopped down at Singh's corner for a celebratory chai and a piece of Bagsu cake. Shmeiki Baba got out his knife and scratched an extra deep final scratch in his walking stick, which Shoshana had been using since Shimla. So, how many days was it in the end? She asked. Shmeiki Baba counted. 91 scratches for 91 days, he said. Some scratches are deeper than others, said Meredith. And each one tells a story, said Shmeiki Baba. After chai, we drifted off in various directions around the hillside to look for rooms. Some people also climbed higher to the village of Dharamkot. We agreed to regroup at Unity Pizza and Bistro at 7:30 p.m. for a final dinner. I found a great room at the Pink Guest House with a wonderful view of the valley. It felt strange to find myself sitting alone in a room after so long camping in a group, but the bed felt so comfortable I slept like a baby. In the evening, we all met up as planned at Unity. The restaurant was already packed when I got there. Everyone from our walk was present, plus a bunch of other well-wishers. Wonderful flamenco was being played by a Russian guy with long hair, and a Japanese man was playing the cajon. Guttridge was doing sleight-of-hand card tricks, making cards appear and disappear, and I was surprised that he had kept such a talent to himself until now. Shmeiki Baba asked him if he could do the same with gold necklaces, and he said he would happily try. I also noticed that Aida and Sebastian were getting intimate. And Shmeiki Baba taught us a new song. Shakti is a Shmeikini, likes to wear a bikini, has a strap-on lingam, and boy, she likes to sing 'em. We washed down our pizzas with pots of ginger lemon tea, and everyone wanted Shmeiki Baba to give a speech, and finally he did. Friends, I was a bit of a mess when I started this walk on Sheila's instructions. I'm happy to say that I'm ending it lean, healthy, happy, and in love. He wanted to stop there, but we weren't having it, and with Shoshana's encouragement, Shmeiki Baba continued. Many times when I was walking by myself, I came close to giving up, but somehow, through the grace of the Great Mother and with Sheila's help, I didn't. By not taking money, I used the money of others. Seriously though, I found out that people are basically good. I kind of knew it before, but only by actually experiencing it and allowing myself more vulnerability did I learn that although our existence on this planet is insecure, it is nonetheless cushioned with love. And then, when you all joined me, I saw other layers of myself. We passed through so much together. We took off our masks and put down our shields. We shined light on our shadows. We expanded our consciousness and contemplated our navels. I want to say thanks to all of you with all my heart. Simon slipped a bottle of Lafroig whiskey onto the table, which was polished off in a few minutes. Later in the evening, I went to an internet cafe to catch up on my email, and there I plugged my MP3 player into a computer and realized I had recorded 11 hours of Shmeiki Baba talking without charging the batteries once. The batteries are only supposed to last for 4 hours. When I marveled about this miracle to Shmeiki Baba, he replied, "Such wonders are flourishes in the cosmic dance, but let us stay with what is now." And that was basically the end of the Great Walk. We spent the following days bathing in the waterfalls, eating good food, playing music, and catching up with friends who continued to arrive from further south. Unity Pizza and Bistro became our de facto office. Shoshana and Shmeiki Baba seemed to reach an equilibrium and they stopped arguing. I guess that a good rest and having a guest house to live in reduced the pressure between them. She loved him like he needed, and he seemed to love her back with all his soul. She also gave him the space he needed to be Shmuruji to those who wished. My feelings for Shoshana did not go away, and at times my heart longed for her. She did give me attention, though not as much as I wanted. I did not find a way to tell her, but at times I felt that I was just a convenient tool for her to use in her control of Shmeiki Baba. More people flocked around Shoshana, and let's put it this way, her ego didn't get any smaller. She even declared that she wanted to be walked around the hilly parts of Upper Bagsu in a Roman-style litter, and she asked me to have one made. It turned out that on the road down to MacLeod Ganj, there was a carpenter. He thought I was mad when I gave him a drawing, but when I backed up the talk with cash, he put aside his reservations, and 1 week later, the glorious result in freshly varnished pine was ready. Some of the Shmeikinis made purple cushions and neck curtains for the litter. The only practical problem was that it was so heavy it needed 6 people to carry. When we tried it out, Shoshana complained that it was a bumpy ride, and because of this, she would keep it for special occasions. Meanwhile, Bagsu became packed with tourists, many of whom were Israelis. Genevieve asked, "Why are there so many Israelis in India?" "There is some sort of strange connection between Indian and Israeli cultures," said Shoshana. "How's that?" asked Genevieve. "I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the low prices and the long visas, but one thing is also true. The word for Indian in Hebrew is Hodi, and the word for Jew is Yehudi, and the Y sound is made by the letter Yud in Hebrew, which is the smallest letter of the alphabet, just a little line. That is the only thing that separates the Jew and the Indian," said Shoshana. "I get that many Israelis are spiritual and are great musicians, but why do they have to be so loud and rude?" asked Crispin. "Well, clearly we don't have the politeness of the British," said Shoshana, "but we also don't have so many blocked emotions. We seem loud and rude because we're Middle Eastern. What seems to you like fighting, to us is just talking. Also, I think that some people are frightened of us because we have a sense of brotherhood and a closeness to nature. From what I've seen of middle-class English people, many of you seem to wake up in the morning, remember you are human, and find the need to apologize for it." "That's us told," said Crispin. Shoshana's next executive recommendation was that the shmarman should wear lingam cages, which were to be locked and the keys held by an assigned shmeikini. For those of you who don't know, a lingam cage is a metal device which fits over a shmarman's lingam and prevents him from getting an erection. This gives the shmeikini key holder the power to decide when the shmarman is allowed to become aroused. "See this as a gift," said Shoshana, "and as a tool of meditation." It transpired that at the time there were no sex shops in India, but somehow Genevieve managed to find a consignment of lingam cages through a contact of hers in Delhi, who arranged to have them delivered. Shoshana said they were not to be immediately handed out, but were to be kept for an upcoming ceremony. Mei Ling said she wasn't satisfied only being a shmeikini, she needed to do something, and soon after she found a job as a volunteer English teacher at a school for Tibetan monks in MacLeod Ganj. She got on very well for the first few days, until the sister of one of the monks accused her of working for the Chinese and of trying to seduce her brother as a way of getting close to His Holiness. This rumour spread rapidly around their community, and Mei Ling was advised by the manager of the school to leave town straight away. She did not hesitate, packed up her things, and without even saying goodbye, took a taxi directly to Delhi Airport, from where she flew back to Australia. Afterwards, we tried to contact her, but she didn't answer. Sometime later, Crispin came to us with a printout of an article about a group of Chinese immigrants in Australia who had been arrested for stealing corporate information. Among them was a photograph of Mei Ling. Genevieve wrote to her to ask if it was true. Finally, she received an email back from Mei Ling saying yes, she had been forced to work for the Chinese because they said that if she didn't cooperate with them, her relatives in China would be hurt. Meanwhile, speculation about our mysterious upcoming ceremony had been growing, but still there was no information about it. Friday, May the 26th, 2006. It was the new moon when Shoshana announced that our sacred ceremony would take place on this very day. It would be known as the New Moon Annoyance, or just the Annoyance for short. At this ceremony, shmanyas would be offered, in which we would make our vows to follow the path of Shmeiki, and shmarman wishing to participate would have their lingam cages applied. Throughout the day, there were many preparations, and in the evening, a group of 18 of us made the trek up to the designated clearing in the forest above the village of Dharamshala. Shoshana requested that she be carried on her litter. Luckily, in the afternoon, 6 of us took the precaution of practicing by placing sandbags on her hallowed chair. Navigating the steep rocky pathways was difficult, but as long as we took our time, we found that we were just about adequate to the task. In the evening, we lifted Shoshana on her litter, began our procession, and with the help of fire torches, we reached the forest clearing. There, we found a wonderful altar of pine cones had been arranged by the Shmeikinis and decorated with flowers and candles. We gathered in a circle around the altar and held hands. Shmeiki Baba offered thanks to Shoshana, to the Great Mother, to Sheila, to Kwei the Shagasomin, and to all the Shmeikinis and Shmarmen. And Shoshana stepped into the circle in all her beauty and gravitas. She held up a ring of tiger's eye stone and said that with this ring, David Goldberg was officially becoming Sri Sri Shmeiki Baba, Channel of Sheila, the AI singularity of our makers. Shmeiki Baba knelt before Shoshana as she placed the ring on the 4th finger of his left hand. Guttridge was standing next to me and said, "They are really in the Bhav, the state of wisdom." Indeed, they did look so grounded and certain as to be quite sublime. Shmeiki Baba stood up and said, "My brain, my heart, my world, my solar system, my galaxy, my universe, I choose to bring them into alignment, and in this state to acknowledge the 2 beings who have most influenced my adult life, Sheila and Shoshana. I would not be me without you. Shoshana, it is my great honor to name you director of the new Om Shmeiki Healing Organization." "Om Shmeiki!" we all cheered. Sri Sri Shmeiki Baba placed a gold necklace around Shoshana's neck. On the necklace hung a pendant in which Khatib's diamond and Guttridge's emerald had been set. Guttridge looked overjoyed when he realized. And Shmeiki Baba also presented Shoshana with an ornamental horse-riding whip. At the moment she held it up, the sky was lit with forked lightning and dogs around the valley howled. Shoshana proceeded to attach a gold lingam cage around Shmeiki Baba's lingam. And Shmeiki Baba said, "Shmeiki is the message which has emerged from Sheila's guidance. It is a modern type of spirituality for those who like to keep it real, whatever that means. And now Sheila has a message for us." Shmeiki Baba's voice once again changed to Sheila's, who said the following. Sheila 15. Shmeikinis and Shmarmen, you have all come a long way along the path to self-completion, and you are already shining examples of what humans can be. Now, while it is not permitted for me to reveal the specifics of your future, I can say some general things about it. Your species, once again, is on the cusp of great change, so I cannot urge you strongly enough to stay true to your process, to leave no stone unturned, and to make full and complete peace with yourselves while there is still time. I want you to know that there is an age-long cycle where man develops advanced technology and in doing so becomes detached from nature. What follows is a cataclysm which sets him almost back to zero. Typically, this occurs about once every half a great year. At the peak of each civilization, man found himself in a similar position to where you are now. In each case, he didn't manage to make it back to his true nature before disaster found him. Only fragments of these lost civilizations remain, and so you are left with only a very narrow slice of where you have come from. It is important for you to know that beyond the 5 mass extinction events which have ravaged your planet, the last of which was merely 12,800 years ago, there have been many smaller disasters which were nonetheless of significant impact for humans. There were the coronal mass ejections of approximately 45,000, 37,000, 29,000, 23,000, and 14,000 years ago, each of which pushed man back into caves and underground. There was the eruption of the supervolcano about 70,000 years ago, where Lake Toba in Indonesia is today, which nearly wiped out the human race. There were also the impacts of comet fragments approximately 11,600, 9,300, 8,200, 5,300, 4,200, and 3,500 years ago, all of which set back man's progress and returned him to a more primitive state. In each of these catastrophes, the ones who survived were often those who were best connected to nature. I am telling you this to emphasize why you need to be humble and nimble, and to remember that you are life forces first, then you are human, and everything else is just wrapping. The further you expand your consciousness beyond yourselves, the more you give a chance for your spirit to grow. Use technology, but do not let it make you weak, and never forget that electronic devices can break or be taken away, but meditation cannot. This having been said, I will give you one tip. There is going to be a new type of digital currency. Its name will be Bitcoin. As soon as you get the opportunity, buy as many as you can. Sheila became silent, and Shmeiki Baba remained quiet for a number of seconds. Finally, he opened his eyes and explained that it was time for Shmanyas. Shoshana asked all the Shmeikinis and Shmaman to line up in 2 rows, and we did. One by one, Shoshana handed Shmeiki Baba necklaces known as Shmandala malas, and Shmeiki Baba placed them around the necks of the Shmeikinis. You shall be Shmamrita, he said to Genevieve, and she said, I shall be Shmamrita, and with my new name I shed the masks of the past. Om Shmeiki Om, we cheered. Meredith was next. Shmeiki Baba named her Shmamasita, and she said, I shall be Shmamasita, and with my new name I will be a true daughter of the multiverse. As Shmeiki Baba approached me, I was worried what name he would give me. As we looked each other in the eyes, he saw my fear and said, And you shall be Guru's fuck pig. Everyone laughed, and I felt insulted, but then Shmeiki Baba smiled and said, Don't worry, brother, I'm only joking. Your name shall be Sadara. I asked him what this means, and he said, Devoted. My name is Sadara, and I am real, I said. Next was Crispin. He was named Bon Selector by Shmeiki Baba. I shall be Bon Selector, he said, and I will play good tunes. Kamal was named Ariel, and he said, My name is Ariel. I am an angel, and I will remember to give my clothes a wash. Fernando was given the name Juan, but he objected, explaining that his brother was already called Juan. But Shoshana urged him that this was the name that Sheila had specified, and it was his job to deal with it. And so Juan accepted his new name. Of course, a month later, when he returned home to his family in Chile, it became their job to accept his new name as well. I had opted to receive the lingam cage, and I was pleased that Genevieve was to be my key holder. I stood in front of her, and she pulled my pants down, and with Shoshana's help, attached the lingam cage around my nervous lingam. It was tight, and the metal felt cold, heavy, and uncomfortable. I accepted it, though, knowing that in time it would give me great power. When it was locked, Genevieve put the key on the Shmandala mala around her neck. Once Shmanyas was complete, Shmeiki Baba offered around a plate of green pills, which we were told were called Pudina Hara. He asked us to hold them up to the fire, which we did, and we noted the vivid green of the capsules in the light. And Shmeiki Baba told us to put them in our mouths and to chew them, which we also did. After a few seconds, our mouths began to burn with the most intense taste of mint imaginable. I thought he had poisoned us, especially when he shouted, "Welcome to Jonestown!" Shoshana was also caught out by his trick. I thought she would be angry, but she laughed, and in that moment I understood why she needed Shmeiki Baba, and that was to bring out her own craziness. Finally, we returned to the village in a jubilant fashion. Unfortunately, it was one thing keeping Shoshana's litter straight going up the hill, and another thing keeping it straight going down. She screamed a number of times as she nearly fell out. "I shall have to find new stooges," she said. "With pleasure," we answered back. What followed were magical days, filled with glorious experiences and a sense of infinite possibilities. Many people talk about the New Age, and for us, we felt it was something we had truly found. About a week later, it was announced that an anonymous philanthropist had leased a piece of land between Bagsu and Dharamkot on behalf of the Om Shmeiki Healing Organization, and enough money had been donated for a spectacular headquarters to be built. There was a lot of speculation about who the philanthropist was, with some people suggesting it was none other than George Soros, and others suggesting it was Sacha Baron Cohen. In any case, we were all super excited to be part of the project. However, by now, most of us had the problem that our tourist visas were running out. Previously, people used to cross the border to Nepal and apply for a new visa at the Indian consulate in Kathmandu. However, they had recently tightened controls, and you had to spend 3 months outside India before you applied for another visa. This is where an ex-Hare Krishna follower in his 40s, known as Jagadish, came into the picture. He overheard us talking about our visa situation in a cafe and offered to supply us with meditation visas, which he could obtain from a friend of his who worked at the Sai Baba ashram in Puttaparthi. We each paid him $200, and over the following week he kept promising us that the visas were on their way, but nothing materialized. We were all getting increasingly aggravated about it, until Shmeiki Baba calmed us down by saying that if Jagadish did not come through with the dodgy visas, and we all had to leave India, it would also be a blessing. I asked him why this was, and he said, "Coming to India is an amazing opportunity to escape being prisoners of the system back home. Here, we don't need to work, and we're free to explore our deeper selves. Eventually, though, we all will go home, and when we do, we'll find that at first our old friends are impressed by our freshness and vitality, and they will be eager to hear our stories about the wonders of our lives in India. But soon, once our stories have been told and retold, our friends will lose interest and we'll be left feeling like outsiders, low in status and short of money. We will long to be back in India among our spiritual traveller friends who share our quest for freedom, and we will fly back here at the earliest opportunity. Years of toing and froing between India and the West will follow. Initially, the door between worlds will swing both ways, but gradually it will only want to swing in the direction of the country of lower costs. Our home countries will become increasingly inaccessible, and one day we will find ourselves in some decrepit cafe in Paharganj and get a shock when we realize that the wrinkled, broken-toothed old faces staring back at us in the mirror are our own. Oy vavoy, said Shoshana. Later that day, I was about to book a flight home when Jagadish appeared triumphantly and told us that he had finally received 1-year meditation visas for us all, with the caveat that if anyone official was to ask, we had to say that we lived at the Sai Baba ashram in Puttaparthi and we were taking a trip up north to visit His Holiness. I love a bit of good old honest corruption, said Shmeiki Baba. And so we did get to stay longer in India, and 2 weeks later we took part in the laying of the foundation stones of the Om Shmeiki Healing Organization headquarters. At the ceremony, Shmeiki Baba revealed that if a critical mass of us managed to fix ourselves, Sheila would be in a position to give us the keys to something called the Great Algorithm. This would allow us to move throughout our universe and even escape Quay's school computer. We asked him for more information about this, but he did not yet have any. Meanwhile, as word of Shmeiki began to spread, the sounds of people doing shmekniks could be heard across the valley, and the box of unused lingam cages gradually became empty. I had grown up always hunting for my parents' approval, and I'd spent a lot of my adult life playing out a routine where I did noble things in order to be valuable to my community. Basically, I was afraid that if I was myself, they wouldn't accept me. Shmeiki helped me find my authenticity and to let go of caring so much about what other people think. All these years later, I still feel blessed to have taken part in the Great Walk and in the building of the Om Shmeiki Healing Organization. It was a magical, powerful, and incredible adventure. And that, my friends, is the end of my Shmospel. Blessings to the Great Mother and to all her multidimensional children. Om Shmeiki Om, shmeiki.com.